Hey guys, today I wanted to do a review on the Minn Kota Powerdrive trolling motor. Stick around, we'll tell you all about it. This is the Minn Kota Powerdrive pontoon special. Now, a few weeks ago, I did a video on the conversion of my Tracker John boat to bass boat conversion, whatever you want to call it. And at that point, I explained in there. As a matter of fact, I will put a link in the description to that video in case it interests you. But I explained why I did the pontoon motor, but I want to explain it again to you real quick. When I did this boat, I debated between a 45 and a 55 pound thrust motor. If I decided I wanted 55 to get the extra power, I looked at the 55 pound thrust, 48 inch shaft, 12 volt Minn Kota, and the cost on that was $669. Now, I got about 3 miles of some rough gravel roads to get to the highway, so every time I go to town, it's 6 miles round trip over some rough roads. I thought, hey, it would kind of be nice to put a quick disconnect. That way I can take the motor, set it down here on the floor, and it won't be bouncing around up here. But we're going to add 80 bucks. So now we're up to $750. Then I looked in the catalog. Minn Kota pontoon special. 48 inch shaft, 12 volt, 54 pound thrust instead of 55. Comes with a free quick disconnect. Total cost $649, $100 less. Now to play it safe, I called Minn Kota and I said, okay, what's the difference? And I was basically told nothing. The pontoon special is marketed towards pontoon owners. So that's why it's set up that way. So if you're looking at the 55 pound, thinking of buying that, look at the pontoon one for the same size, everything's the same. You can save yourself $100 if you're going to go with the quick disconnect. Let's talk about the quick disconnect first. There is one bolt on the side. I don't have this all the way in from the last fishing trip, but I'll take the bolt out anyway. There is one bolt on the side that holds it in. You just screw that into the plate, and from there, you just slide the trolling motor right off, and it's out of the way. Let me move the camera here just a little bit if I can, and I'll show you. I usually have mine setting. I have some Velcro straps that I added on, and mine will sit just like this for transportation. I got Velcro straps I can put over the top here, and a Velcro strap down there. It rides perfectly right there, no bouncing or anything like that. The idea for the quick disconnect, come back to a little bit here. I know the idea for the quick disconnect is security and theft problems and stuff like that, but in my situation, theft wasn't as much of a concern as I like getting it down here, getting it out of the way, and it is not bouncing around up here, weakening this structure when it's all said and done. Why did I choose a Powerdrive? The last two bow mount trolling motors I've had were both cable drive. And we're shooting videos. I put a camera in front, but whenever you're doing a cable type motor, as you're deploying it, the cable has to flip over. And I was finding I couldn't set my camera very high because the cable was interfering with it. I knew with the Powerdrive, the way it deploys, I wasn't going to have that problem anymore. So that was my first real reason why I wanted the Powerdrive. Secondly, the foot controls of the cables. I never liked the back and forth with your foot control. The Powerdrive come with a nice slim inch and a half thick. It's got an 18-foot cord. You can basically go anywhere in the boat you want and run the motor. The way it's basically going to work is when you put your foot on the pad, you push down with your heel, gives it power to the boat. When you tilt your foot to the left, you're going to go left. When you tilt your foot to the right, you're going to go right. I read a lot of reviews and people, oh, it's hard to do. I have a hard time getting it and this and that. And other people said, hey, just give it time. Here's what I found. It's variable speed. It goes from 0 to 10. What I found is if I'm going across a lake in 10, yeah, we're going to go back and forth like this because you're controlling it. But when I got out and went to go fishing, I moved her down to about 3 or 4, and I'll have to admit it was not very windy that day we were out. But by setting it at 3 to 4, now we weren't jerking all over the place. I had no problem running this the first day out, keeping it on those low speeds. But I will admit, you running up to 9 or 10, and you're probably going to be, it's a little jerky, and you're going to do a little back and forth until you kind of get used to what you're doing with your foot up there. But it's still far superior to the old cable drive ones as far as I'm concerned. And I'm going to try to get in close so you can see this. Another thing I like, your foot control with the cable, is you can disconnect it when you're not using it, and then I go ahead and store that in the storage compartment. It's not sitting out. And then here's the end of the cable, and then here's the end here. You just plug them together. But here's a feature I like. You can take that off, take the plug out of this side, and you can go ahead, take the cap off this side, plug them together, hook them together, and there you go. While you're doing that, you can take the cap you took off here, and you can now screw the plug into the cap so you don't lose it. Secondly, when you're storing it, you take it out, you put the cap on this side, you put the plug on this side, and you're not going to get any dirt or bugs or anything like that up inside of it. So I kind of like that system. It's really nice. You're not going to lose half of it, and you're going to keep everything protected from the elements and bugs and dirt and dust and everything else. So I like that feature to be able to take that off. As far as power is concerned, the power stays on. I've got my power hook. I'm not disconnecting that. I thought once of maybe a plug to disconnect. I don't really need it, but the plugs I've seen, the wiring was a lot smaller, and I didn't want to go with too small of a wire. I may take someday, if I find a quick plug that's got the same heavy gauge wire, I would not object to putting a plug in there just so you can take that apart and totally remove it from the boat easily. But it hasn't been a factor for me as of yet, and we'll see if it is down the line. Next thing we're going to talk about, the power to the trolling motor, how I did that real quick so you can take a look at that. It's kind of included in my fishing boat modification video that I mentioned earlier, but just in case you don't go to that, I'm going to show it to you right here, right now. Okay, I'm going to just kind of hand hold the camera for this, but the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start here at the back where the battery is. Now I want you to know I have an inline fuse, and the cables that are running for my power are 6 gauge wire on the cables, and it's a 50 amp inline fuse. So I've got 6 gauge cables running from the back of the boat all the way to the front of the boat. I'll show you that here in a bit. And you do want to run an inline fuse on something like this for protection. So let's go up to the front of the boat and see what we got set up there. All right, let's show you what we got here. First thing I'm going to need to do is remove my trolling motor, or excuse me, fish finder all the way. Get that off of here. Let me slide that off the side. The 2 power lines that ran to the back of the boat are going to come all the way to the front. Let me remove real quick. Remove the protective covers. And here's what we have. Basically, I went to a home improvement store, to the electrical department, and I bought 2 small bus bars. These are what you find inside your breaker panel at home, where all the negative and the ground wires go. So all I did was I mounted 2 of these here, and on this side, here is that main 6 gauge wire coming all the way from the back of the boat. Here's the positive side. As you can see, I put red tape on it to mark it. This is now my negative side. Everything here is positive. Right here is my trolling motor wire coming in. Here's the trolling motor wire here. My fish finder wires are here. And I also have, like I say, a red adapter in case I need power there. That's hooked into it too. So everything is hooked into it for easy access. So what I did, 2 6 gauge wires all the way up to the front, set this up. That way I don't have multiple wires going back and forth the length of the boat. Everything comes right here. But for a motor like this, you want that 50 amp fuse. So in the end, how does it run? I love it. I'll tell you what, I am we were out earlier this week, got my first shot to use it, and I was impressed. I really enjoyed it far more than the old cable drive bow mount motor I had on my other boat. Power, I'll tell you, at 10, we went right across the lake at a pretty good clip, much faster than we ever went in my old boat. So I was happy with that. And with a setting of 0 to 10, you have a lot more control. You know, the old trolling motor, I think I had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But here you can, all the way from 0 to 10, so you've got a lot of variance in there. I kind of tested that a little. I like that. It was kind of nice. We were fishing in a spot, and I had it set between 3 and 4 so it didn't jerk all over the place. And then Bob hooked a nice fish, and we were working with that and getting his fish in and everything. And the wind was pushing us into the bank at that time. It was kind of nice. I could jump up quick. I rolled that to 10, hit the motor, and out into the lake we went, and got out there ways, and I could get off it real quick and go back and start helping him with what he was doing in the boat, versus, you know, leaving it at 3, and it would take us a while to get out there. So the variable speed on that was real nice. It's easy to get to. You know, I guess if I wouldn't have had my cable all tied up, I could have taken that back with me and stood in the back boat with him and still ran the motor at the same time. So you can do, I believe you can do, I'm sure you can with the pontoon, you can with the others, a remote control. I think you're looking at maybe $150 to add remote control to it. Now, I believe on that situation, now I'm not sure whether you take the side panel off, and then where your connection is for this, there are then 2 connections, one for the foot pedal, and the other would be throwing up for your remote control. I believe that's the way it worked. I started looking at it, but I haven't delved into that too deep because I don't have it yet. And personally, I doubt I'm going to get it. Some people talk to the remote control. What was nice, they had a hard time with this, so they liked the remote control. I can't say I had a hard time with this. And personally, with remote control, what are you going to do? I mean, I got my rod in one hand, and maybe I got a fish in the other. Where am I going to put the remote control? It's just, you know, we do the YouTube videos, so I'm always, where's it at? I've usually got a remote control for my camera around my neck, and I said the last thing I want to do is push a button and think I'm moving the boat, and I ended up moving I don't want 2 remotes hanging around my neck. So, and I don't want to be holding the remote in my hand. The idea of a foot control is to keep both hands free. So to me, I didn't see a big advantage to the remote. Maybe under different conditions for different people, there is an advantage to it. iPilot and all the stuff they can put on, again, I fish such little lakes, and the way I fish, there is no advantage to that for me at this point in time. So I don't see I'll spend the extra money for that. But from what I've seen, boy, I'll tell you what, put those 2 things together, or put all 3 of those things together, and you'd have yourself a heck of a setup, that's for sure. Anyway, Minn Kota Powerdrive. I like it. I really do. It was worth the money as far as I'm concerned. I'm real happy with it so far. We'll see what it does for longevity. I've only had it out once, so let's hope it lasts as long as some of my other trolling motors have. If it does, I'll be real happy, that's for sure. Thanks for sticking with me.